Well, pets are part of the family for many people. When one pet gets sick, you feel the pain. A woman is blaming the national chain PetSmart for what she calls the pain over her bird's death. The woman claims she bought a bird that became infected only weeks after taking it home from the Beaumont store. KFDM News has been investigating for weeks, and Haley Boole is following that story. Haley, what have you found?
Greg, KFDM News has learned PetSmart removed every parakeet from 511 of its more than 1,300 stores. They were delivered to the stores between the end of March and May 20th. The communications director for PetSmart confirms to KFDM News 16 birds at PetSmarts across the country, including a parakeet from the Beaumont store, have tested positive for psittacosis, also known as parrot fever. The company is responding while a Beaumont customer is speaking out.
A family of parakeets, alive and well.
This is about the fact that I brought her home as my pet. You know, a little bitty bird, you know, that's supposed to make me happy.
Yet, something's missing. Less than 3 weeks after Tanya Voivodich bought Betty Page and took her home from PetSmart to join her 4 other parakeets.
I think she's actively dying, and she's definitely not doing well.
Betty Page died. Voivodich says her pet developed a bacterial infection that can spread from bird to bird.
You could see the red, the rashy going all the way to my nasal area.
And bird to human. Voivodich says she was infected. And that's where this story and our investigation begins. May 10th of this year, Voivodich says she bought a parakeet she named Betty Page from the PetSmart store in Beaumont. 9 days later, according to a letter from her attorney to PetSmart, Voivodich began showing symptoms of a rapidly developing illness.
Something was wrong with me. I couldn't think clearly. I had a little bit of congestion, you know, sinus drainage, but not a lot. It was in abundance, and I'm thinking this doesn't mirror tonsillitis or strep throat. My tonsils aren't swollen. Something's not right.
May 24th, exactly 2 weeks after Betty Page came home.
I went back into PetSmart because I had been monitoring another bird, a possible female, and she was, this specific bird was much larger and older than some of the other birds.
And it was so you wanted to buy another bird?
I wanted to buy another bird, and I went in there and they were all gone.
Voivodich says this document was given to her.
This is the actual email that was sent
out. A spokesperson for PetSmart says the document appears to be a copy of the internal communication the company sent to affected stores. According to the document, managers were notified that beginning May 20th, a vendor, Rainbow, would start picking up all parakeets. The document reads, quote, "We recently learned of 2 confirmed and 1 suspected diagnoses of psittacosis in parakeets that were received from Rainbow. The birds in your store may have been delivered from the vendor during the same time as the psittacosis-positive parakeets. Out of an abundance of caution, we are removing all parakeets from your store for psittacosis testing and treatment, if necessary, to be done at the vendor. At this point, we do not have a confirmed diagnosis from your store." Voivodich says later that day, she went to Victory Medical Center in Beaumont. According to a medical document she provided to us, she was diagnosed with an upper respiratory infection and exposure to psittacosis. She started taking antibiotics. Voivodich says when her symptoms didn't go away, she visited a doctor specializing in internal medicine. That doctor told KFDM he diagnosed Voivodich with psittacosis. He believes she contracted the infection from her bird.
And she's not doing very well today.
A short time later, May 28th, Betty Page died.
I'm thinking that had they notified me, I would have gotten her to a vet. I would have had her tested. I could have intervened in her treatment to get preventative care. As she died, she suffered.
The PetSmart communication director confirms 16 parakeets across the country tested positive for psittacosis, but she says there are no confirmed cases of the birds transmitting the disease to humans. May 12th, the director says the company first learned of a bird with a confirmed case of psittacosis in a Pennsylvania store. 4 days later, PetSmart started contacting customers who'd bought parakeets from that store because, quote, it was a fluid situation. We wanted to make sure we didn't cause any undue alarm. May 19th, PetSmart issued a voluntary withdrawal of parakeets that came from a specific vendor in 511 of its more than 1,300 stores. The withdrawal began the next day. The communications director says they used emails, letters, and phone calls to begin reaching out to customers who had purchased parakeets from stores with confirmed cases of psittacosis. She says, quote, "Anywhere we had a confirmed case, we immediately started contacting pet parents. That was a priority." Tanya Voivodich provided a document to us from a laboratory in Georgia. It shows June 3rd, a lab test confirmed her parakeet tested positive for psittacosis. The communications director says on that same day, the company confirmed one case of psittacosis in a parakeet from its Beaumont store. The spokeswoman didn't confirm that bird was Betty Page. June 4th, PetSmart started contacting customers from the Beaumont store who had purchased a parakeet. Around that same time, the company began contacting customers from the 511 stores where people had bought parakeets between March 12th and May 20th. The communications director told us, quote, "It's not a common occurrence for this to happen at all. So I just want to emphasize that at this point, we are just contacting the pet parents who purchased the birds within that time frame and the 511 stores." She goes on to say, quote, "Nothing is more important to us than the health and safety of people and pets. We've taken this action really as a precaution."
The communications director told us pet owners have the option of returning parakeets to the stores, so there are some stores that have the birds. She says any parakeets for sale in those stores have been tested and are negative for psittacosis. Voivodich is seeking $50,000 in damages from PetSmart and Rainbow Exotics. We'll have that part of our investigation tomorrow night at 6. Reporting live in the studio, Haley Bull, KFDM 6 News.